This is a session where we thought we'll discuss developments and trends in digitization of Indian economy. And if I may invite some of my friends to come here on the podium, Jay Vijayan, uh, he is the come, he's the founder and CEO of Techion, and come. I think one after the other I'll introduce, so it's easier. And Jay is the founder and CEO of Techion. It's a next generation enterprise software company. And prior to this, he was the CIO of Tesla Motors for 4 years, and where Jay was responsible for all the Tesla's information systems, including applications, infrastructure, network operations, and security. Jay led transformation of Tesla's digital and information systems during the company's very critical growth and extremely high ramp-up phase, from the time when the company had nearly no revenue through the growth to an annual revenue run rate of over $5 billion with a market capitalization of $35 billion. And again, before joining Tesla, he was heading the IT business applications for organization at VMware. So welcome, Jay. Then Saurabh Srinivasan. He's the head of corporate development and product business operations at Nutanix. Previously, he was the executive director and head of storage investment banking, JP Morgan. Nutanix is disrupting one of the largest segments in enterprise IT with an addressable market exceeding 50 billion. Since initial product availability in late 2011, it has achieved unprecedented traction and momentum, growing its customer base too and expanding our presence to well over 60 countries. So welcome, Saurabh. And Maria. Hi, Maria. She is the President and Chief Compliance Officer at Times of Money, Inc. She's an executive with over 20 years of experience in the financial services industry with a core focus on payment services, management style that adapts to specific needs and challenges, coupled with high set of standards and store work ethics, proven ability to recruit and develop top talent. And she is responsible for Times of Money Group, global governance model, compliance program, risk management, regulatory programs, and audit. And Times of Money is the global e-payments arm of Network International. Network International acquired majority stake in Mumbai, India, headquartered in 2012. So that's very good. And then I have a couple of my colleagues here, maybe Webunar+. He is a technology lawyer and he does a lot of private equity VC work. He leads our office out of Bangalore. And then we have Dr. Mihir Parikh. He's a strategic thought leader. So again, his background is in his PhD in artificial intelligence. And he tells us what are the new trends that are going to come and teaches us as to what are different things. And based on that, we visualize what will be the future legal issues I explain. And he leads our office here in Palo Alto. Weber also, by the way, has background in electronics engineer. 25 years ago, by the way, he came to me crying. I said, what happened? He said, I'm a top class engineer and went to a US consulate because I got admission to a good engineering school and they declined my visa. So he was very disappointed and I said, he thought I'm an immigration lawyer. So, and then I said, but I'm not immigration lawyer. He said, Nishith, what do I do now? I said, I don't know, but why don't you become a lawyer? So he said, whatever you say I will do because lawyer's advice is final. Okay. So next day I said, you come, start repairing computers, and he was knowing software and all those kind of stuff. And I said, dude, join law school. So then he joined law school, and 3 years after, he passed out with flying colors. And on the same day, I got invitation to speak in Hawaii at Pacific Telecom Commission's conference. And I said, you know technology better, why don't you go and speak? So apply to US Consulate again. He applied, he immediately got visa. I said, oh, you're an advocate also, you're a lawyer. Here you go. So that's how he went. Unfortunate part was that he did not eat anything because he is pure vegetarian, everything was seafood there. So he said it was only to see and not to eat. So that's a little background. But we have been working for almost 25 years. Same way I think with Mihir, it's almost 25-year journey. And then we have Jaideep Reddy, he's our technology lawyer and he specializes in subjects of blockchain and the bitcoins and many other technologies that we talked about. So we have an interesting now group of people, a lot of wisdom around. And if I may just start, Vijan, I know you lost your voice, but if you can bear with me a little bit. How have you seen India transition into the digital age in the last few years? And what do you think where it is headed?
First of all, apologize for my voice. I had a sore throat and I recovered, but my voice is not recovered fully. Since I committed for the event, I wanted to make it today. I hope you can understand me, all of you. Okay, I'll try to keep it short. Little bit more about my background. So after leaving Tesla, I've started my own startup. In that process, we have a good, reasonably, it's not big, but it's a reasonably good sized organization in India, in Bangalore. So I'm heavily involved. Every 3 months, I'm in my Bangalore office spending time with my team. We have a team here in Silicon Valley as well. So I do follow things very, very closely. I had good experience, the whole incorporation process, the bureaucratic process, even the IP transfer, and a lot of different things between India and here. I think many of you probably will be familiar. So the technology transition has been significantly encouraging, as all of you know. But at the same time, in my experience, it has also been painful because India as a country has a lot of legacy, and as you know, it's significantly large and heavily complex. The number of organizations, number of the technology systems being used, how disparate, how segmented, not just systems are, purely process are, right? Because in India, as you know, from desk to desk, you can't move things, files or papers that easily. It takes hours or days. And for that to be digitized completely, to seamlessly flow through the value chain, it's not going to be, I didn't expect it to be easy. It's going to be complex, but it's very encouraging, the change that the government is taking it through. And what I feel is needed more is engagement and contribution and feedback going back into the government through different channels, right? Like organizations which are heavily involved, Nishith Desai, US India Business Council, TAI, there are many organizations which help channel that. So we need to, I think luckily, I do have the right contacts. So I was able to give my feedback. One example I could give is, during my company's incorporation, right around the incorporation process, you remember they launched a website for incorporating for new companies. And that process was supposed to be making things significantly easy. But you might be familiar that the website crashed, I think the moment they launched. And it was not coming up for like weeks. And the backlog was going thousands and thousands and thousands. And I did regular channel follow-ups, emails, calls, nothing worked out. So I started sending email to the head, the IAS officer who's heading the organization, then a few people I know. Finally, looks like even my email reached the Prime Minister Modi. And the person who forwarded it to him also confirmed that he opened the email. Even then it took time for things to happen. I think that's typical India. If we expect things to happen overnight, it may not. But the thing is, I think every one of us have to contribute in a constructive way to give feedback where things can progressively move. I know it's a long answer, but the short version of it is very encouraging change. I think the right people have to get involved and influence it to take it in the right direction.
Thank you, Jay. But let me turn to Vaibhav for a moment. I think you just came from India, so you can give some fresh perspective. What are the key developments that you see in the digital space over the past at least 1 year, if not more?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think as Jay said, India always goes on trial and error basis. But they opened up, the idea was to speed it up. Actually, it took more time. But thankfully, over a period of time now, things have settled. And now you can, if you got all papers in hand, you can incorporate a company in almost a day or maximum 2 days. So we are progressing. And that's something which has been very interesting. That's been the flavor of what we have seen in India development in last, few couple of years now, especially in 1 year. On digital space, we have seen a lot of developments, and I will touch upon some of the developments. Maybe later on we'll go in details, but let's start with demonetization. I think that was a watermark. Both that day, I think they say that in US black became white, in India black became white. So it was a good day on that day. But the demonetization has led to a lot of interesting follow-up points, right? I'm not talking about demonetization at all. Everybody has heard about it. Maybe we'll talk more about it later. But because of demonetization, there was a big push for digital payments. So one direct benefit which went on demonetization for digital payments. On digital payment side, again, when you look at what is happening, first government decided that they want to have a lot of digital payments, so they appointed a committee called Ratan Vatal Committee. Ratan Vatal Committee looked at payments, digital payments, and actually come out with recommendation. One of the recommendation, the committee report has been accepted, and one of the recommendation has already been approved, which is to set up a separate payment regulatory board, which is outside Reserve Bank of India. Now, when you look at digital payments or any payment side, it will always, be governed by Reserve Bank of India. Now, Reserve Bank of India, which is like your Fed here, is too preoccupied or very heavily biased towards banks. And banks play a very central role in running any payment system. And when you have banks playing central role, it is very unlikely that digital payment that traditionally you would want it will really thrive, because they will want to protect their core business, their whole core thing, and digital payments really will not get that kind of fair chance which one would want. So one of the things they said, if we want digital payments to thrive, we need to take the whole thing outside the banking module and make it independent. So they pulled it out from Reserve Bank of India, made a new regulatory body. Of course, Reserve Bank of India has 50% people who will appoint in the body, so they will have some indirect influence. But the whole idea really is to make it independent, so there will be a lot of non-banking players who will end up playing a very critical role on payment systems. So that is something which is critical. And the whole objective which they are going for is they want to create a good security standard, good privacy standard, and good interoperability standard. The board will regulate all these things, and they will end up coming up with standards which allows you to flip from one place to another place, make payments as a very, very strong part of the whole ecosystem. Similarly, Bitcoin blockchain, there have been a lot of development in the last 12 months. We'll take it a little later on. Most critical ones have been with respect to Aadhaar. Aadhaar is a kind of an identity document started in 2009. Today, more than 1 billion people in India have enrolled in Aadhaar. Now, Aadhaar is, as I said, it's a national identity system. The way it works, just for some of you who may not be aware, the way it works is it's not a card or a chip which you will carry with name, address, and authentication proof. It is not just a social security number. Of course, it has Aadhaar number just like social security, but it's not just a social security number. It also has biometric print. Unlike some of the European countries where the biometric print is stored in the card which you carry, Here, there is no card, right? The biometric print is captured and is stored in central database. The India captures 2 biometric prints. One, the fingerprint. They actually have all 10 fingers captured, as well as iris scan. And the whole objective is that if I get fingerprint and iris scan put together, the probability of false positive reduces significantly and actually can be reliably used for authentication. And the way the system works is you end up going at any place. You basically give your fingerprint, thumbprint or any other print, index printer, along with your Aadhaar card. It goes to the network, pulls out the details and confirms who this person is, name, address, and all the KYC requirement is actually met with. And this is now given legal backing. So you don't, for KYC perspective now, you don't require to give all the papers. You can actually go to the bank with a fingerprint, and that is all which is required to open a bank account. You know, Reliance Jio set up new services last year, and what I understand, and I'm sure someone from Reliance also is here, what I understand that within few months, they were able to enroll 100 million customers, possibly the fastest enrollment or one of the fastest enrollment in India, simply because with the eKYC, you didn't have to go and capture a lot of documents. So one can go there, give a fingerprint, do the KYC and get a SIM card. So it was as easy as it gets. So that's the eKYC has become a very critical. Now because of Aadhaar system, there has been a very interesting application. India's tech is there. I think we may cover it later. Aadhaar based payment system is there, which is also there. And also what government is doing now with Aadhaar system is trying to root out corruption. They have linked Aadhaar number with benefits system. So whenever somebody is getting a particular government based benefit, whether subsidy or subsidized let's say gas or food or anything else, so any public benefit system is linked to Aadhaar. So now all the middlemen are cut out and all the corruption is actually weeded out, and there are numbers there which are really mind-boggling in trying to see how this government has cut down the corruption. The other side which has brought other than public benefits is with respect to mandatory linking the Aadhaar number or card with your filing of your tax return, getting your driver license. So now if you want to go and file tax returns, you need to provide your Aadhaar card. Now what's going to happen there is a lot of fictitious account will get wiped out. So a lot of those mandatory linking to some of the things which one needs to do has been brought up. Now this has kind of made somebody concerned, because then the question is, I have to file tax return, but if I don't want Aadhaar and you are making me take Aadhaar and you are taking my fingerprints and iris and keeping it, you may misuse it. So what are my privacy rights? So that has raised a lot of privacy questions. Today, one of the biggest legal development or case sitting in Supreme Court is whether Indian citizen has any privacy rights vis-a-vis government. Now, under Indian Constitution, there is no specific right to privacy. However, Indian courts have adapted or interpreted right to life as also having right to privacy. And because of that reason, courts are actually looking at it and saying whether government can take other biometric information and use it the way they want to use it, or whether there is a restriction on government's usage of biometric information. And in that situation, whether there are privacy rights which Indian has vis-a-vis government. So this is something which we are all watching very carefully, and over a period of time we will get to know how court is looking at it. But right now the indication is that the court is likely to provide some kind of privacy rights to the citizens vis-a-vis the government.
Thank you.
Talking about privacy rights, there is other kind of case going on, which is another interesting case. which is a WhatsApp and a Facebook case. The key part here is, when WhatsApp became very popular in India, they had specifically told, we will never use your information for any purposes, right? Your information is private. And when Facebook acquired WhatsApp, then the question raised is, Facebook says, okay, I can use your information for certain things which I may want to use for, right? And that has created a little bit issue. A case has been filed against them in the court, and the court has raised a question saying that, look, you gave kind of services based on your statement that the data will not be used. Now you are kind of changing it. And yes, you are saying that people don't want to use, can leave WhatsApp, but that's not practical because it's so prevalent now that people are very unlikely to leave. But do you have unbridled right to change privacy policy, right, for any purpose you want, or whether there is a restriction? In other words, is there a concept of promissory estoppel where you promise certain things earlier and now you are changing it, of course, from prospective basis, but whether it can be unrestrained or can be restriction. So that is another case which is going on privacy, which is important aspect of development which we are looking at. Government in that case has specifically said that we will bring out a new law within 6 months. So we are going to expect looking at a new privacy law within 6 months. As of today, only sensitive private information, it's like medical information, financial information, biometric or password is protected. Other information we still don't have law, but this is a new development which is likely to happen, something which we are going to look at it closely. So just 30 more seconds.
Sure.
Just few other points. There is a development happening on encryption side. We don't have law on encryption, but there is a law which is likely to come. So that's something which is there. Similarly, another one is there is a proposal that over-the-top application, OTT applications also should be regulated. So in application like WhatsApp, Skype, and some of the other ones should also be regulated. And there is a big debate there. There is a debate on net neutrality. And lastly, there is also draft rules out on drones. Currently, drones are not permitted in India. They are banned, subject to draft notes, rules coming in. The draft rules are already out. They are likely to come mid-year, likely to put in effect mid-year. And the drones note currently are more restrictive than what you have in the US. They also have line of sight concept. They also have, but every drone needs to be registered, and that will kind of reduce the application. But this is kind of an overall development of last 1 year.
Thank you so much for a very nice overview of all that has been happening. I think there's so much happening. We can spend rest of the day as well discussing the developments, and we'll take some questions once our panel members have spoken a little more. Let me quickly turn and Mihir, what are the key developments in the digital space, or sorry, what are the opportunities, say, in from a strategic perspective for tech company at this time in India? In fact, I forgot to tell you that Mihir also leads a strategy consulting practice group, but our strategy consulting is based on law as a tool, and we complement other strategy practices which are based on data and empirical study, which is not our strength. So we look at any company, any group, and see how can we use law to create more value, how can we create the competitive advantage, and so on and so forth. So, and Mihir leads that, and maybe you want to quickly tell, because we want to have people talk about.
First of all, I think I see a lot of faces in the crowd who are so accomplished that to talk about strategy, they've lived through strategy, they've practiced strategy, and they have been successful in strategy. So, but when you think of strategy, you're always thinking about at a higher level view, not going down deep into specific law or specific technology, but you're thinking about how can I use these tools to create unique value? How can I use this tool to create differentiation in my product and services? How can I use this tools available to me in order to scale up my business? Find resources. How can I grow fast using this tool? How can I find the right market segment where I can pick up the low-hanging fruits first and build my business and then grow my user base to an extent that I can lock out my customers. So those are the multiple reasons why you are trying to use those technology and law and all that. Now, if you think of strategic opportunities in India, there has never been a better time than it is now. You know, you have tier 2, tier 3 customers, you know, in the cities which are not the top cities like Bombay and Calcutta and Delhi and Madras or Chennai. But you have lower level cities, tier 2, tier 3, where you have customers who are very hungry. To give you an example of my own, I lived in India for 5 years until I moved back to US last year. I lived in a small town in Gujarat. You know, you probably heard of a town called Godhra, right? We make prime ministers. So don't mess with me. Fiber optic was coming to my doorstep. From my doorstep inside was copper. So think about the opportunity. I mean, they're all very well connected. Why are you seeing so much growth of Aadhaar or adoption of Aadhaar? Because people are everywhere connected. Think about what kind of tools and technologies that you will bring in to serve those hungry customers. What kind of products and services you will be offering. So that's where the biggest, I think, the strategic opportunities are there. Another area where you can think of strategic opportunities are, of course, Vaibhav talked about Aadhaar. It's a massive identification where at the smallest village level, you can have a very secure way of authenticating the right customer, right person, and doing the transaction, which can be very well connected with the bank and other services, insurance and bank and healthcare and everything else. And I think the real advantage I see, because again I have to talk about law, is there are a lot of differentiation in how law treats different services, different business model, and different products. You have to think about how I can use law to reposition my product so I can take advantage of those differentiation. How can I use law to tweak my business model so I can enter into a market which is not possible for me otherwise? Or how I can use law so I can block my competitors from entering into the market where I am. Right? You see that every day, predatory pricing and Ola and Uber and all those fights you see every day. How can I use law to create competitive value and advantage for myself? You can think about how I can build compliance into my product, because your product, software services or SaaS, will be used by your users, your customers, and they will have to deal with compliance as they use those products in their processes. How can I build compliance in my product so that my customer doesn't have to worry about all that compliance, and I create unique value which my competitors may not be able to offer, at least in the short run. So there are a lot of opportunities happening in India, and I think it's a great time.
And just look at Amazon, for example. You know, retailing is not normally permissible,
Right.
but you create a marketplace. It's still,
or you become a logistic company. You may not be a retailer because foreign direct investment is not allowed in that segment, at least that time. So you become a logistic company, you become a platform company. You don't sell your own product, but you sell somebody else. You just simply connect the two. And you get the position in the market. The moment the rule changes, of course, on the side, you work to change the rule. The moment the rule changes, you already have a very strong position in the market. So that's how you think about law, how I can tweak my business model to create value. Very good example.
Very quickly, Jaideep, can you tell something about what's happening in the fintech and payments development space at this time?
Sure. Is this on?
Yeah.
So just to take off of what Mihir said in terms of the market opportunity for fintech and payments, we have 350 million people online in India, regular internet users, and that's 26% of the population. So there are various studies by all the big four consulting firms on how this is going to spike over the next 5 years. So by 2020, a lot of them predict that the population that's going to go online will double, give or take. So post demonetization, as Vaibhav mentioned, where 86% of transactions were in cash, people were forced to kind of become digital. And so there were a lot of spikes in digital transactions through both cards, though cards are not traditionally that penetrative in India, but more so through digital payment wallets. So people here are familiar with Venmo and PayPal, and there were parallels in India. A popular one is Paytm, which a lot of people got on board to. So a lot of people got used that. Circumstances made it that there was a spike in digital activity, and the government realized that if it had to remove 86% of the cash in circulation, it had to accompany that with a wave of digital enabling infrastructure. So it introduced this protocol called the Unified Payments Interface, where it essentially brought banks and payments companies onto a single protocol. So usually there's a complicated wire transfer mechanism, lots of fees charged on either side, lots of details required, like the account number, the branch, etc. But what the UPI allows you to do is pay to a person's mobile number or to their email address. And those transactions grew 47% month on month as of March 2017. And that was about 4 months after demonetization. So the government has tried to counter demonetization or support demonetization, a lot of digital activities. And at the same time, private players have kind of latched on to this opportunity. So players that were not traditionally in the payments ecosystem have started to think about getting into it. So Amazon got a wallet license, which is something you need to be a PayPal or Venmo equivalent in India recently. And WhatsApp has been reported to be considering in-app payments. I think Messenger here has a similar system. Also, Samsung Pay and Apple Pay have either entered or are considering entering India. So the private players have also kind of latched onto this, and there are old school players that have traditionally been very paper and offline based. So there's a popular company called Sodexo that issues vouchers to employees for their expenses. So people can buy food or shopping, and the company pays that as part of their compensation. And that's kind of a staple in India. Everyone has seen it, and now that company is revamping its whole its whole infrastructure to create a debit card, which employees can use at merchants who will accept it for expenses. So there have been these waves, and so this is the industry side, and there have also been a few regulatory changes. I don't want to kind of block other people's time, but just quickly, there've been the government has tried to bring in rules to safeguard privacy. It's not clear that those are best placed legally, because they kind of how they sit from a legal perspective is not clear in the sense of how they overlap with existing laws. But that's something that's in flux, and we've given comments on that, and that's going to evolve pretty fast over the next few months.
Yeah, thank you. We have a little overwhelming response, so if people want to take this, it's most welcome. But let me quickly turn to Maria. What are the changes in the payment ecosystem you have seen over the past year, and particularly after demonetization? What are the opportunities and possibly challenges? What do you see there? If you can add to what Jaideep said,
Sure, absolutely. So to put a little bit more context over what we do, so you understand, I think, what we've seen as a change. So Times of Money is a technology provider. We also have our own products. So we have system solutions that offer payments, anything from a bill payment platform to a remittance platform to a payment aggregator to the card processor. So you could either come to us and we offer a full solution front to end for your entrepreneur new company, or if you just need a portion of it. Let's say you have, you're an established bank and you're looking to provide some online solutions on bill payments or remittances, we can offer you the online piece. And we also have our own products. So we do, we have merchants that we onboard. So what we've seen on the merchant space is we've seen definitely an increase on the e-commerce side. A lot of Indian individuals have started up their own businesses and understood that, you know, the wave of the future is to be able to accept payments, you know, online. And we only do online payments. We only do bank-to-bank payments at this time. We don't do any cash. So we definitely have seen an evolution and an increase in our transactions and volumes, because I think it's coincided with the demonetization that we're seeing in India. It's coinciding with the fact that the cash, you know, world is kind of coming to an end, or it's demonetizing in India. So now definitely is the time to get in. We're also seeing, I think it was mentioned earlier, is some of these private larger players getting into the game. We have recently contracted with Google to become their payment provider in India, to offer the Google Pay and be able to accept payments. Times of Money is tied up with all the banks in India, so if you are a business that's looking to offer those payment solutions, we tend to be the company to go to provide those solutions to everyone. And what we're also seeing is there's a huge push on both on the for example, the Google or the merchants, is to bring on the smaller banks. So we've locked in all the larger banks. You're talking Axis, ICIC, you're talking SBI. We have all of those already incorporated into our back ends. So if you're looking to accept payments, it's an easy solution for us. But they're now wanting smaller state regionalized banks that aren't as technologically advanced or don't have the capability of integrating into a payment solution. But we're seeing a demand that, you know, Google or merchants are saying, hey, we need to onboard these banks because we have customers that can't purchase our products and can't pay for them because there's no way of accepting products for these e-commerce businesses. So some of the trends we're seeing is definitely a lot of e-commerce businesses. From a retail perspective, we have, what I've seen just being there and some of the impacts is you're starting to see in India a lot of the boutique shop providers that provided that great craftsmanship of either, you know, shoes or leather goods, or sorry, not leather, but shoes and textiles, starting to go to that online business model. It's becoming, I think, for them a lot more viable, and they're getting away from that cash-based solution. And I think it's part of that demonetization. Everyone's going to that digital platform. So it's expected, I think, by 2020 for India to be at about 500 billion in a market size on the payment sector. So definitely, I think those are opportunities. If you're a startup company, if you are looking to get into payments, India right now is in that evolutionary stage, where if you get in now at the right time, partner with the right partners, get the right payment solutions that you need, I think you'll be riding the wave. And I think we've heard from some of these panelists already, you know, there's risks out there, there's things you need to consider and think about. But I think that definitely is some of the changes we've seen as just a technology provider. We've seen the banks really driving the payment solutions, not only within India, but they're wanting access to the global market. So this is another big one, I think, that's coming that I think everyone should know. The India banks are looking to offer payment solutions, let's say from the US, from Australia, from Europe. They're wanting to bring that money in, and there's a lot of money coming into India, I think, from just expatriates that you're talking about, the NRIs that are living abroad, working abroad. So they're wanting that money to come back home, and they're looking for those solutions. So we're partnering with a lot of the large banks right now to offer them that white label model where we give them the technology platform, we can give them some of the background, some of the compliance needs that were mentioned earlier, to really help them bring in those payment solutions. So when you start to hear, you know, Google, Amazon, WhatsApp, you're starting to see the banks getting into the industry. I think those are clear signs of, I think, the evolution of India coming onto the market as a larger player, definitely as a result of the demonetization that we've seen the last couple of years.
Thank you so much. Sorry to keep you waiting, I think.
No.
But as you're aware, product innovation buy-in for India, for the Indian market, has seen tremendous growth with global tech companies like Google, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc., launching India-specific products,
Right.
particularly in the payment space. And how do you see the market for India-US collaboration in product space developing?
Sure,
And I
that's a
think
good-
now we'll take some questions.
Sure, sure. I mean, obviously, the payment space is huge, but the enterprise space in India is fairly huge as well. It's roughly 70 billion. I mean, obviously, it's a small piece of the overall IT market. But the whole recent reforms are certainly going to help fuel more investment in the region, more interest of US companies in Indian companies via M&A and or investment as well. There's still a long way to go. I do think, as far as regulation is concerned. I mean, the other day I was reading that the World Bank published a report that said that India was in the first quartile in competitiveness, but in the last quartile in the ease of doing business, which obviously you went through, Jay. But and so the question arises: how can you be first quartile in competitiveness but be last quartile in ease of doing business? And once that actually is regulation is solved, you're going to see a huge increase in M&A as well as investment activity, I believe, in the region. All the great characteristics are there. I mean, India actually draws significant parallels to Silicon Valley. There's great founders mentality. There are companies with that are solving real-world problems, which actually have enterprise pain points in mind. Management teams are increasingly getting more experienced. You have experienced investors. There's nothing to really stop that growth and to be able to prevent the next large enterprise company coming out of India, other than possibly regulation and bureaucracy. But that being said, I do see that there is, from an M&A standpoint and interest in strategic investment in the region, Indian companies offer a unique mix of English-speaking workforce, fantastic labor market economics, great access to feeder schools and top talent, as well as management teams that have become, as I said, increasingly experienced. That sort of capsule right there is something that's unique that you don't find from a target profile from a strategic acquirer's perspective. You're going to start seeing a lot of folks really increasing their investment in the region, not only to buy products and technologies and be able to incorporate them, but also get a foothold in a market that's growing fast, and something that you can be a part of that's an incremental increase to the overall budget.
Thank you so much. I think you heard a lot about what's all going on in India, and would love to have some questions. I know we are running a little short of time, so if we can have some questions or comment very quickly, but a very quick,
Is it okay to ask questions to you?
To me?
Okay, just want to make sure, yeah. You talked about creativity and brainstorming kind of a thing in the university building that you are building.
Yeah.
The biggest, keep in mind that I have developed a paradigm shift in creative thinking, called kaleidoscope brainstorming. I'm heavily into it. The issue is who owns what after the brainstorming is done by whoever it is, and something is developed, and you being the lawyer, how do you handle it? How do you solve it? Any brainstorming. This is a big issue.
This is a good question, first of all. Very quickly, the way in which I'm looking at, we are interested in changing the world for the better together. Who owns it is not so much material in that sense. If somebody comes up with something interesting, he owns it, number one. Okay. If something is developed together, probably they will figure out. So there are broad rules of IP, but at the same time, my whole objective is to be collaborative. Whole idea is that we want you to come. We do not want to take away your property, or we do not want to just let's discuss in free environment, open kind of sky, and that's why we call it a blue sky thinking center. And just for information, the model we are working on is private property for public good. So it's fully funded by us. We don't go to government or anybody else, because we want freedom of speech and expression to be retained, no interference. And at the same time, if any of you want to come and use it, be our guest, you come to my home, I don't charge you for dinner or lunch. And the same thing in this concept. Whole idea is, let us create a platform where I'm a lawyer, I'm not an accountant or business person like you. So we don't know what is revenue and what is finance and all that. So I think excitement is very important. So we put behind revenue. The moment you start with revenue model, this model cannot be worked, because I can never justify to a corporate head that why I'm doing this, because we're putting $12 million and there is no revenue model. To me, revenue model is only excitement and doing something, and I do not want to create constraints and somebody thinks that I'll still have the property and all that. If it's yours, you keep it yours. So broadly, that is the idea. But very interesting, we want to collaborate with all of you, number of institutions or any of the thing you want to do. And right, this is a good opportunity for me to introduce Miten. I think we are collaborating on some challenge, and he can quickly come and tell what we are doing. If you don't mind, you may have to run a little bit. Because I know with your weight you may have some difficulty, but sorry for that. But why don't you, or you can talk from there what we are doing together. So
okay,
similarly,
hi everyone.
any of you, any other idea, we'll be happy to collaborate.
Okay, great. Hey, hi everybody. My name is Miten Mehta. I'm co-founder of Spinta Global Accelerator. We are headquartered back here in Fremont. And Nishith Desai, Mr. Nishith Desai is on our global mentor board. So we have been running a US-India cross-border program for now almost 2 years. And I have about 24 companies. But one of the afternoons on Saturday last month, we went to actually Nishith Bhai and said, Nishith Bhai, you talk about going out and creating value differentiation. You could talk about going out and creating competitive differentiation. In our business, what would you advise? And in his characteristic style, he mentioned, he said, why don't you go and talk to your top 10 customers? So that's what we did. We went to our customers in US and India, and we asked them really that what are the hurdles that they face, because we run corporate innovation programs for them. And they said, look, we are not afraid of the technology disruption as much as we are of the aftermath that comes in terms of legal, regulatory, and compliance, So just kind of lighten up. There's a Hindi movie dialogue which says that, look, saab, thappad se dar nahi lagta hai, pyar se dar lagta hai. That's what they said. The technology doesn't scare us. What scares us is really the legal, regulatory, and compliance. So we went back and we told Nishith Bhai the same thing, saying, hey, what do we do about this? Because most of the corporates, while they're getting themselves prepared, what they get blindsided usually is this huge iceberg that comes after the disruption. And I said, that may not be a bad idea to go out and actually create a custom program which is focused around tech and legal disruption, so that instead of going out and trying to catch up on the curve behind, they actually stay ahead and they actually go out and get to participate in the new laws and regulatory and compliance that comes up. So we said, okay, why not, with NDA, because they are global leaders in innovation and they are right there in backyard. Nishith Bhai serves on our mentor board. And they have folks, we work with Dr. Mihir Parekh, Vaibhav, and they are all very subject matter experts in the area. So we chose 5 technology areas which we believed will create tech disruption, working with Nishith Bhai. We said AI/ML, we know that is going to be a biggie. VR/AR is going to be a biggie. We talked about robotics, we talked about IoT, and we said we are going to go out and focus in these 4 industries. We talked about manufacturing, service industry, health tech, fintech, and manufacturing. So with that, we are crafting this program that will be jointly run between NDA and Spinta. Corporates who are looking at going out and creating innovations or products around these 5 industry and these 5 technology products can come and talk to us later on, all of us. And we'll be more than happy to see how they can be part of this program, where the distinct advantage they would have is they'll get to go out and work with the regulatory, legal, and compliance side, both in India and US. And they'll have this benefit of going out and having the IP of NDA, including Nishith Bhai himself. He has volunteered to go out and said that he'll personally go out and also mentor some of the companies in these areas. And then obviously where we come in is we actually help in terms of creating the MVP, the minimum viable product, which is actually taking by design the legal and the compliance issue rather than kind of trying to go out and nail it as an afterthought. So that's in a bit summary about the program. We thought we should announce it here with all of you wonderful folks in the audience. And thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Mithun. I think, so the whole idea is, he had some idea, we sat together, created something, so all of you are most welcome to co-create something that is exciting. That's what all matters today. Very quickly, should we have few questions so that or comment? Nitin, yeah, wonderful, please go ahead.
Hello.
Quickly introduce yourself so
yes,
people also
my
know.
name is Arvind Jain.
Sorry.
I'm not in the digital economy at all. Actually, I'm in mergers and acquisitions in old economy. That's the aluminum industry. However, first of all, I'd like to thank the panel for an absolutely interesting overview of the digital economy developments in India. And I have two questions, a two-part question. Number one, we were introduced to the Aadhaar database very briefly, got more than 1 billion people's information there, which is tremendous. What is the thinking behind the security of this database? You know, if there's a database, it can and will be hacked at some time. So what is the thinking behind that? That's question number one. And question number two, with all this high brain power in India and all these developments, we don't hear much about Indian firms in digital security. So I may be completely uninformed on that, but I think it'll be useful if the panel has some idea on that to share some developments on what's happening on that front and who are the leading companies in that field in India. Thank you.
Let me answer, take a shot at both your questions, and I will be quick here. The lot has been discussed about security of other database, and that's something also matter of our court thing that tomorrow it can be hacked. And I agree, concept is that if it is there, it will be hacked. Thankfully, first we had several people like Nandan, who was architect of this Aadhaar Pay, has kept security in mind at the time of drawing board. So the security system which they have developed is quite robust. Unlike what you would generally expect, Indian government to do as an afterthought. So it's not an afterthought, it's actually been brought in as a part of design. The chief architect of the CTO of Aadhaar who designed it was Shrikant Nadamuni, again, who is now part of Khosla Labs. So the people who designed it were quite aware of security, and they've designed security aspect in mind. The other thing about Aadhaar is that it's not going to be online, always on, and allowed access by everyone. So everybody cannot access it. The access is limited to only people in the system which are registered, vetted by Aadhaar central database and approved. So only that system can access, otherwise there is no access permitted by anyone else. So the way they are also trying to do it, that they are keeping it offline and allowing access only through certain trusted systems. And then the trusted system in turn ties up with the other people who will then send requests to them, and they then will pick up the request and then do it. So this is a two-pronged system, two-pronged approach they are trying to do. On your second question on data security, unfortunately, I agree, we are nowhere close on data security as you would expect, let's say a country like Israel is, right? Security software in India, that particular industry is very non-existent. We are completely relying on US and Israel for providing all the security related software. Only place where there is a lot of security related work which is happening is in defense, where they are not going with so a lot of development happening only for defense, but other than defense, we are completely reliant on US and Israel on the security software development.
Yeah. If just 30 seconds, because we are running a bit, please.
Okay, first of all, I think the inbuilt design characteristics are great, but there must be some idea of adaptive security. How do you keep improving it as more things are known? That's number one. And on the second, I think with the lack of participants in the security space in India, for this audience and other investors in mind, it's a great opportunity.
Great opportunity, absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Any other question or comment quickly? Very quick if you don't mind, because I think we have to quickly get on the next panel.
founder of Footprint Ventures in Bangalore. And my question relates to the demonetization discussion for the panel. When we happened to be in India right when it happened, and it was pretty crazy at that time, as you might, for those of us who were there. But what we did see is an immediate move to digital payments and a complete disruption in companies that were cash-based. But then once the cash came back into the economy, we saw a complete flip back to sort of the old habits. So what I'd like to hear from the panel is, what do they see in this intermediate term? I can see where you're talking about the very long term, but what do they see in the intermediate term? Because we still see a lot of disruption, and we see a lot of people have come back to cash payments.
Absolutely, I'll take that question. I think one of the challenges that we have in India is it's really hard to get connectivity in the entire country, right? That's why you're challenged with like Uber today. If you do Uber in India, it's a cash-based, payment. You can do card, but most of them will do the cash, and it's because getting Wi-Fi access or getting that access to be able to do a remote payment is difficult. So that's, I think, why we saw the impact of doing the flip-flop, right? So you saw, consumers going to digital, but then you saw it go right back to cash, because if you're in a business, a retail front, you still need to, that's your income, right? That's your bread and butter. So you need to be able to offer some type of solution to consumers that are still wanting to buy your goods, but you're not able to provide the solution. So I think for us, that's what we saw is getting that connectivity on a consistent basis, on that high level performance basis, is extremely difficult. When you're talking about more remote areas or areas that aren't as industrialized or commercialized, where you see most of India, more of the outskirts. I think in your high metropolitan areas, Delhi, Mumbai, those areas, you're probably pretty solid. But when you start to get into more of the remote areas, it gets difficult. It gets difficult to do those connectivities. And I think that's what causes a disruption to some of these businesses. And that's what we've seen is we're encountering a portion of that with these smaller banks. When we're trying to get these smaller banks online to be able to accept payments, through their systems, you're dealing with upgrading their systems from that legacy model they have. You're dealing with them having the capability of being able to accept these payments on a more real-time basis and it not being a manual process. That's the other piece that we're encountering. So each time you're dealing with that, there's also that same impact to a retailer. So there's definitely an education process, and there's definitely, I think, what I'm calling more of an evolution process that India's going through, evolutionizing the country, where you can have more visibility and more connectivity on a real-time basis to be able to offer the demonetization on a more consistent basis. That's why they still accept cash. There's still a portion of that business that's going to be, cash. I don't think it'll ever go away. I think it'll take time.
But
the major cities, and it was a choice by the consumer. The company was able to offer the digital payment or the cash payment, but the consumers, once the cash came back into the economy, chose to move back to cash.
let's discuss this because I think the next panel members are a little waiting. I'm really sorry for that, but we'll be all here for a while. So, in the break you can, discuss this. If you don't mind, I'm really sorry because we went out of time a little bit and want to make sure that but we'll definitely respond to your question. I'll personally also discuss with you, don't worry. Can we, I think, adjourn this and go to the next panel now? But let me thank everyone on the panel with a big round of applause. Thank you. Thank you so much. So can I have friends for the second panel that will be on innovative structures and emerging deal trends. Weber, you can continue sitting here. Thank you, Mihir. Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Saurabh. Thank you, Jay. Very kind of you. Sorry we had to,
No
Thank
problem.
you.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
So good of you. Thank you.